All right, welcome back to the TBD podcast. I'm joined here with my excellent co-host Hank Hayes, and I'll be joining us as well. Mr. Graham Averett is me. If you don't already know that by now, we're kind of doing this thing, and we're back for another episode. Obviously, it is February. We have a nice little leap year going on, so an extended day to your February's tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoy that. But what that really means for us is March is just around the corner. And that means bracketology is just around the corner. And that means the madness is just around the corner. And as you can see, I love basketball, in the words of the great meta world peace change from Ron Artest. So, with that being said, I also hate basketball, and I don't really want to say much about the Arkansas Razorbacks, even though I'm saying it right now. I won't be discussing them much. They love to crush my dreams and then give me hope and then crush them even harder. But with that being said, I got to be grateful. It's been a great 3 years prior, and so I'm gonna take my lumps and move on from that. And we will cheer for my pal Hank and his Vols while I'm in Vol country. They got a big game tonight. We'll obviously see what the results come from there. But yeah, Hank, any words that you want to say to the viewers as we get this little episode set up?
Don't have a whole lot. I tell you what, I'm stoked for some madness upcoming. And honestly, it's probably one of my favorite things to talk about in the sports world. And I know it's one of the reasons we started doing the podcast. So to get into even near talking about brackets and kind of looking more legitimately over the next few weeks, it's exciting, and I'm stoked.
Totally. And what we have for you guys today is going to be a treat. Hank, does it look like we're seeing the screen here? Are you seeing the screen?
Yep,
We're
I'm
seeing the
seeing it.
screen here. Let me position this for us. I actually threw together this NCAA 2024 NCAA basketball contenders tier list. And what we have for you guys today will be a special treat. I think we can see all of our specific teams being thrown into the gauntlet here. I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing tonight. And then in future episodes, obviously, we're going to have more hype surrounding the actual bracket as we are very close. Conference tournaments actually start a week from today, and Selection Sunday will be the following Sunday. So it is pretty crazy as we're looking forward to. Is that right? Is that right on that?
Uh,
Or
how
or maybe they continue on for a little bit more. It might be the following Sunday, but I think like early conference tournaments. No, they don't start next week, do they? I don't
they do start next week. Yep, they do,
like
and
OVC, some of those smaller ones.
yeah, they do, and then 2 weeks will be when the big
2 weeks.
dogs
So
are.
we'll be looking forward to that for sure. And we got a special episode for you guys next week. Not going to do any spoilers there. But this specifically for us is going to be our task as we try to be brief yet solid here. Is we have 40 teams in this pool, and with these 40 teams, we are going to try to put them into this accurate tier. We obviously have top tier as title contender. Right below that, Final Four contender, really great spot. We have Elite Eight contender, Sweet 16 contender, round of 32 likely, and first round exit likely. And what our metric is here is number one, what is their ceiling? Can they even make it to the title? If that's not the case, if we know that we have no faith in them making it to the title game, they don't have the chops to do it. They cannot be there. But there also has to be a little bit of realism as far as, you know what, maybe they do have the ceiling for a Final Four, but this type of team in March, based off of their history and based off their coaching and et cetera, I don't think they've got it in them. I'm going to put them in the Sweet 16. So there is a little bit of at our discretion realism, even if in theory they could make it to the Final Four. Where it's a mixture of what is their ceiling as well as where realistically do we think they're going to end up. And
Yeah,
so kind of see the disparity as we go on from here. But I would like us actually to start off with this. Let's both pick one team that we believe is in that title contender category. And then I'll let you start and you can say a few words. Obviously, we have 40 teams, so we don't have a ton of time on each team. So some of them we're going to have to just be like,
make
this
it
is
brief.
here and this is why. Some of the other ones we can speak longer on, but let's start out with title contenders that we believe, and you can say a brief word on why you think that's the case.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I've said this for a couple of weeks now, obviously not necessarily on the pod, but just, in talking, for me, it's going to be Purdue. I think even with a weaker Big Ten this year, in my eyes, when you have a college player as dominant as Edie is, you're coming off a year where honestly, extremely embarrassing. You're losing to the 16, Fairleigh Dickinson, and it's one of those things where I can see a Virginia storybook written. Will it happen? Of course, I don't know, but it's one of those things where Purdue has been so strong, and they're up near the top. This isn't a shocking pick. It's not necessarily a hot take. Maybe people will not believe in them because of specifically last year's results, but I just think you got to kind of throw it out the window. And I also feel like they probably have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, ready to prove somebody wrong that, hey, you know what, you might not believe in us in the tournament, but man, they're crushing teams this year. And I just think it's unless things change, Edie is unbelievable. And I think everyone around him has gotten better. And that leads to he doesn't have to be the guy that gets the job done. Especially if a team really targets him. So that's my choice.
For the record, I agree with you. They should definitely be in this spot. There would be for me a team that I would believe in a little bit more than them, and I'm not obviously the data guy. You are the data guy, but I will say like you're talking about Purdue, which is currently number two in KenPom, number two in net. That's unbelievable. Now I want to talk about a team that is number one in KenPom and number one in net. That's going to be Houston. They are in the hardest conference in college basketball, and they're kind of dominating the conference. And so I think, like, I heard a stat from some guys I was listening to, and I couldn't fully figure out all the stats that they were pulling, because I think you can obviously pull certain stats and make it sort of skew in one way. But they were saying like Houston is about number one in every single defensive statistical category that matters. Like that they have not really seen ever in any team ever do that. Typically, a team is very dominant in an aspect of defense, and somehow they are dominating in all aspects of defense. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily win you the games when you have to make shots, but the reality is they have this suffocating defense, and then now they are starting to have these guards come along that have some name recognition. Jamal Shed, we already knew about LJ Cryer being a bucket. And then there's some good supporting cast there as well. Those two guys in particular, Shed has been a really good PG for them. Doesn't really get called thrown in the conversation a lot, but for me, I think it would be very satisfying as they've moved from the American to the Big 12 to sort of show like, hey, these like 30-win seasons weren't fluky. Like we can hang with the big dogs, and clearly Sampson has helped them to do that.
Yeah, no, I agreed. I think they've held their own in the Big 12, and I think they've often been doubted for their weaker conference. According to their defensive efficiency number on KenPom currently, I would like to see the previous years, but what I'm seeing here is they are significantly the best defensive team in the country, far and away.
Mm.
If I'm doing quick math in my head, the difference between them at one and Tennessee at two for top defensive teams in the nation, the next closest to number two, the difference between one and two is the same difference roughly between 2 and 20. So that's what you're looking at there. They are significantly better. So I guess we'll see if it turns out. I mean, you go and you're just miserable playing them offensively, I would imagine. So at least that's what we've seen.
Totally. I think I agree with these two. In my opinion, it's been this year way for kind of all year, and you would probably agree with this. There's going to be obviously one more team that I would have to throw up there, and then we can kind of add some more debate, but it'll be UConn.
It'll be for sure.
It is, and the funny thing about it is like I think they might be. You can fact check me on this, but I think they might be like three in both metrics. Three in
They're,
KenPom and net.
they're three. They're three in KenPom. And then I'm not sure about net. I'd have to check.
But there's something about this UConn team that like I'll be honest, I don't really like the idea of a repeat champion. I've also been talking about the champion curse for a long time and the fact that like I got to do my research, but it's been a long time, obviously since a repeat champion. We know that that was Florida, but there's been this prevailing curse that not only are these previous champions not making it to the like to the championship game. They're not even really making it that close. And
Hmm.
I had gone into a little bit of analytics on it. Um, 2007 champion Florida didn't make the NCAA tournament in 2008. 2008, Kansas lost in the Sweet 16. 2009 champion UNC didn't make the tournament 2010. 2010 champion Duke lost in the Sweet 16 the next year. 2011 champion UConn lost in the round of 64. 2012. 2012 champion Kentucky didn't make the NCAA tournament. 2013 champion Louisville lost in the Sweet 16 the next year. 2014 champion UConn didn't make the NCAA tournament in 2015. 2015 champ Duke lost in the Sweet 16 in 2016. And then 2016, Villanova round of 32 loss. 2017, UNC loses in the round of 32. 2018, Villanova loses in the round of 32. 2019 champ Virginia, it's COVID year. We don't know. 2021 champ Baylor loses in the round of 32. That's four straight rounds of 32. And then Kansas loses in the round of 32. That's five straight round of 32 losses.
Yeah.
Well, but at the same time, though, we do have to. Unfortunately, I do have to admit this. This team is better than those teams. That all the ones that I mentioned.
I
None of
guess.
those teams won it, and then all of a sudden we're in the conversation for the best team in basketball.
Yeah, no, you're right. I guess the only argument there to have to look at the seeding was, Kansas was a 1 seed last year. So
They
they,
were.
they did not decrease drastically from the year before. Now, that being said, I mean, this team is significantly better over the course of the regular season than last year's team. I mean, they were a 4, correct, last
They
season. They
were.
won,
They
they
were.
won, and they're easily going to be a 1 seed. So I mean, a difference between a 1 and a 4 in terms of regular season performance is pretty large.
Oh yeah.
As history has shown.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, they've got to be there, and there's something about it too, Hank, where it's like, as much as I hate to say it, like I'm not. I promise I won't pick them to be my champion because I don't want it to happen, and because I want to be able to share the curse stat going
Yeah.
on and on and on. But like, if there was a team I would believe in the most out of these three, unfortunately, I probably would say them. And I probably should have just mentioned them before that. But like, there's something about them where like I could just see specifically Purdue and Houston having the offense stall out. And I just cannot imagine that happening when you have Cam Spencer, Tristan Newton, and Donovan Clingan just demolishing guys. So
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think my only rebuttal to that would be yes, Houston. That's a good argument. They're 18th in offense for Ken Palm, but Purdue is actually ranks higher than UConn for offensive efficiency. So it's
yeah,
kind of, that does. Now, that being said, they probably were super high last year as well. And I mean, I guess the offense stalled out and they had a great offense. So you have
sure.
a good point. It also, it doesn't always come down to the stats. It comes down to the makeup of teams and how teams score also, more balanced scoring versus Edie is going to take a lot of the load. And I don't know. It's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, totally. I do believe there's a gap. I don't believe it's as big as some people are making it out to be. Like people are saying like UConn, Purdue, Houston, massive gap. These teams. I actually personally am like, okay, let's cool our jets a little bit. I do kind of feel like it's not a I do think it's a gap. I don't think it's a massive gap as people are saying.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So I guess to continue the conversation, based on ceiling, do you think there are other teams that can fall into this title contender? Obviously there are, but how many do you kind of put up with at the tip of the iceberg?
I don't want to put really many more at all. I would love to hear what your thoughts would be on it. My thought here is yes, we're talking ceiling. We're also trying to be realistic. And like, I feel like I would be pretty confident if I was able to like bet, if I'm a betting man, I had to choose three. I kind of feel like if I'm betting these three teams, I feel like I'm probably gonna have over 50% chance to be right on it.
I think this is sad coming from me, a Vols fan, but I do think one of these three teams will win it all. I know it's a little bit of a boring prediction, but I mean it's just the most logical thought of
Yeah.
it all.
Well, and some people are saying like the rest of the field is down. I do agree with that. I do think like we have had such a dominant top three, and then there have been there's been a lot of parity across the rest of the league, which has been really fun. But I think what we're saying here though is that like this is this is gonna be a fun one for us. Is who actually do we believe can make a Final Four?
I agree.
Um, and
Yeah,
so
do you get
yeah,
it? I won't.
let's get into it.
Yeah.
You could start.
Sure. And I want to have some sort of uniqueness because like I don't want to just pick pick the two seeds like, that are
Don't go too chalky. Yeah.
that kind of thing. So try to give my kind of um my genuine thoughts on it. I mean, I guess I'll start with my team because I know them best. I do think the Vols are a Final Four contender this year. I think this is one of the best teams we've ever had. Over the course of like history, maybe not, but over the course of the past 10 years and ever since Rick Barnes has been at Tennessee,
Mm.
absolutely this is our best or second best team. And I think we have the
Best.
opportunity to
Come
do
on.
it.
Best, baby.
All right, it's the best. It's the best. So I definitely think we can do it. And if you're talking ceiling, I think there's no doubt. I mean, we've been really solid throughout the year. Obviously, um, you don't always hit your ceiling, so we'll see where that goes. But we just have such solid team this year, as well as something we've talked about, Graham, is when you need a bucket in those big moments, and we finally have that guy this year with Connect, and
Yeah.
I think that really does it makes a difference for how you look at some of these games because man, some of these games are going to get tight. Like if you unless you are embarrassingly getting blown out in the tourney, like most games when they're down the stretch are getting pretty tight. When you get to the Sweet 16, especially. So I think we're there, and we have that squad, and of course Barnes just being the veteran coach. So I think we can sit in this category.
Yeah. And let me agree with that. And let me also say, like, I'm not, again, I don't want to be this boring guy because I know Tennessee's sort of gunning for that fourth one seed. I do believe that if there was any other team that I think has a shot at the title, I do think it's Tennessee. Like I said, I don't think it'll happen, but I do believe out of the rest of the field, if I had to say this team can do it, they would be up there for me. And I said this too. I just want to throw this out there because I think it's super interesting. I believe it was the 2008 tournament or the 2009. I want to say '08. Let me look. Uh, yeah, it was '08. '08 tournament, all one seed Final Four. It was unbelievable, right? That's like, hey, buddy, you want to learn how to do bracketology? Just pick the highest seeds, and
Yeah.
and it does it. And it almost feels like the women's bracket because it's typically pretty chalky. I know this isn't going to happen, and like I know that like this. Maybe people say this all the time, but because I feel like it's a top heavy league, I would actually not be shocked. I know it won't happen, but I would not be shocked if it was all one seeds. Like I actually would have been shocked in previous years. I just want to put it out there. I actually would have been shocked if it was all one seeds in previous years. This year, if it happened, I would go, okay. I'm not surprised by
Yeah.
that.
I think especially the top three we listed. I mean, if those three make it, I mean there will be no surprise to me. They've been significantly better than the field and in the regular season.
Yeah.
And then you just throw in the fourth, like you said. I agree. I definitely agree.
So, anyways, I'm gonna put my I'm gonna go out and by the way, I don't think this is gonna be a very crowded tier in my opinion. I do want to pump the brakes on it a little bit. My team, the next team that I want to toss in there is going to be Kentucky. I don't I want to just throw that out there. I don't know what your thoughts are on
Right.
that. The reason it's Kentucky for me is if there was a team that had a ceiling to win it all and like to even like kind of go out and surprisingly demolish even some really good teams, it's going to be Kentucky. I know there's some questions on metrics and things like that, but the way that they spanked Bama and then the way that they like grinded their way out of a hole against Mississippi State and hit the game winner on the road in a place where people have really, really been struggling. Mississippi State beat Tennessee at their place. They beat Auburn at their place, and it looked like they had just controlled the game.
Yeah.
You got Reed Shepherd just going nuclear, and it's like, wait, Reed Shepherd's not even supposed to be their guy.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be Dillingham, it's supposed to be Reeves, um, among other guys, and it's Shepherd. I know that they could definitely choke, but I also kind of feel like a little Purdue-y. I feel like they're thinking, man, uh, like was last year the upset year for them?
For
What
Kentucky, no, it wasn't. That was 2 years ago. But
did they lose to last year?
I this is
Kansas
gonna.
State?
Am I dating myself? But did they make the tourney last year?
Was it Kansas State?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was Kansas State. It was 3 years ago they missed the tourney.
Now, Kansas State, that's a fine loss, but it's also not like they can win that one. Like I almost feel like they've got that they almost have to have a chip on their shoulder of like this is our time to like remind people that we're Kentucky.
Yeah.
And I know it might not have it. Also, it feels very blue blood-esque. It's kind of annoying, but like I really think they could be there. I do.
Yeah. I guess, and I don't really want to do this, but if we're gonna say that though, could the argument not be made for Bama too?
Oh, it
They're
could.
sorry.
Oh, it absolutely could be.
Okay. I actually
But I
so
believe in Kentucky more. I just want to say that
yeah.
at this
I
point.
think Kentucky has multiple NBA scorers, which if they get rolling in some of these games are gonna be pretty much unstoppable. Whereas Bama, I think they're gonna rely a lot on Sears, personally. And I just don't know if that's gonna work out in the long run.
That's my thought. More versatile.
And so maybe we want to place both of them right now. I'm not necessarily I'm not sure I would immediately go Final Four for Kentucky, but I think they have a really big ceiling. But I mean their offensive numbers are amazing. They're sixth in Ken Palm offensively. Again, Kentucky Bama very similar, amazing offense, bad defense as most people know. But again, I'll say when Reeves and Dillingham and Shepard are all playing really well, and if they're all out there in the tourney, and they put in and they actually, I'm pretty sure this season have not played together a lot. But if Cal rolls out some of those
Oh,
lineups, seriously, I don't know who can stop them because Dillingham and Reeves, and I guess Shepard, although for me it's even hard to believe sometimes. Those guys are all NBA guys. Like they're and the guy that
oh,
really stands out to me because he torched Tennessee, even though we did win, was Dillingham. He was
yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah, yeah. He's
Did
unbelievable.
not miss. And last night we saw Shepard could not miss. Like these guys, if they're going, I don't know who you're gonna have to stop them. Like that's gonna be you're gonna have to play elite defense to be able to stop them. So their ceiling is very high.
Yeah, and also want to add against Bama, ran like a guy that hasn't done much for them, averaging about 9 points a game. That's actually pretty good. But goes for 28. Justin Edwards doesn't miss a shot. Like, what are we doing? Like, just random. Like, we're getting anybody to come in and just be a bucket. So that's why I got to feel like.
He was amazing.
By the way, I don't think this tier is very big, but I feel like Kentucky. I want to put them in.
Well, let's do it then. Let's do it then. Yeah, throw them in there. Um, and
And
then
unless,
I
yeah,
think again, similar team, Bama. I think the difference, my main difference is when I think about the roster makeup is they are very reliant on Sears. I think Sears is the second best player in the SEC this year, behind Connect,
hmm.
and he's amazing. I mean, watching him play, he's unbelievable. The thing is, though, I just don't know if they've got enough without him. If he's getting clamped by a
Nelson
real,
is going to get his shot rocked.
yeah, I just don't know. So
Oh, here's my thing. Try to close your eyes. Can you picture Bama in a Final Four? Because I can't. I'm not trying to be rude. I can't do it.
no, it definitely it'd be hard for me to picture. I think they will have some success, and I think their ceiling is decent, but I just don't know. I don't think it's as high because of the makeup of the team specifically and the balance of scoring and potential scores. For me, it's probably going to be a Sweet 16 contender for Bama. That's where my head goes. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think they have the
I-
potential to do it and could
yeah.
go to the Elite Eight maybe, but I don't see it happening.
So Sweet 16, Bama right now, what are they projected seed wise?
They're a
Four.
four.
Four. That means in the Sweet 16, you would have to play most likely a five, right? Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, five seeds right now. What are those like San Diego State, Dayton? I mean, they could beat a team like that. I think if they played San Diego State again, they could be fiery. I don't know.
No, Bama. Sorry, if that would be in the round of 32, they would play the five. I,
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, no. They're higher than a 4. I believe in at least in Lenardi's most recent one. Let me find them. They are man, I'm struggling. Sorry. Gosh, I can't find them. They're a 3. So they would play 6.
They play a 6. I mean, and that would be in the round of 32 to get to the Sweet 16.
16, yeah.
And then they would after that play most likely like a
It would be a 2, hypothetically.
yeah, I might agree with you on the Sweet 16. I can't see them. I just can't. So,
I
unfortunately.
don't either. Yeah, I don't either. And for the record, I don't necessarily think Kentucky will make it to the Final Four either. I think Elite Eight, in my mind, is probably a little bit more realistic. But
Yeah.
again, we're talking ceilings here. We're trying to paint some sort of picture. It's not just straight seeds as well. So
And it's also like when I do the close my eyes thing, like I can see Kentucky Final Four. I can't see Bama.
the history with the tourney, like that's a big thing that you brought up, Graham, in the past is conference history as well as team history. It's a really big deal. Tennessee has had bad team history in the tourney. Kentucky, obviously, great team history in the tourney. And the SEC is super strong this year, and there's a lot there. So
Okay. What any other teams that stick out to you? And I guess we want to start being a little bit more brief with these descriptions, but what other teams stick out to you as far as Final Four contenders? Do you have any others that jump off the page? And then like I guess just quick stats about why.
yeah, I think I don't know. There's a couple. Not exactly sure why. I know that they actually I've specifically games I've watched they haven't done amazing in, but for me, Final Four contender probably UNC. I think they've been really good and they're still a really solid team. I'm not sure where they'll end up. I don't think that they are as elite as recent years maybe. Although to be fair, weren't necessarily amazing in past regular seasons specifically. They just made good runs. Um, but they come to mind. They're ninth in Ken Palm, and they'd be a team just based on their history in the tourney that I mean I could definitely see them. Right? It's the Kentucky. It's the big name, right?
Yeah.
I don't know
And
what your thoughts
by the
on
way,
them.
they went on a 10-game win streak. That's a good like indicator of can you win a bunch of games in March? Have you been on a 6-game win streak before? Because you got to win 6 games to win it all. I feel like people right now are for some reason really down on them, and I'm like, I get it, y'all. They losing some games, dude. You got to lose some games sometimes. Like,
Yeah,
and right now people are all down on them. I mean, dude, they're still a really good team at 21-6. They've gotten some really good wins and they still have a really great chance to prove themselves at Duke at the end of their season. I would agree. I think they should be in the Final Four contender spot.
okay. Oh, I'm glad we agree there.
Anybody else?
Man, I feel like there should be because if we're talking ceilings and we've got Kentucky in there and they're seed wise not there. I mean, I
I
know
got,
that
I got one.
you got one.
I got one. I mean, I'm not trying to be too obvious with it.
Let's hear it.
I mean, I don't. I don't. And part of it is me. I used to be a fan of this team, not really, but like every single time they'd make the tournament, I'd be like, "Come on, let's go," and then they would choke. Um, I mean, I want it to be Iowa State, man. Like, I now here's the deal. I don't know that I can fully get them there. I don't know if I
Yeah,
can fully get them there. By the way, 10 minutes, man. We're taking some time, um,
you're good.
but if I'm really thinking ceilings based on what I have actually seen in the tail of the tape and history, by the way, I don't know that I will go Iowa State. The one team that I could really see getting there based on wins this year and based on personnel and based on being old, that's something that I think I value a lot. Having some fifth-year guys, be Creighton.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, they're 12th in Ken Palm and they're actually currently ninth in the net, which is that's pretty great. I mean, being top 10 in net. So
Rushing UConn.
and I could really see it. And your thing about the Big East teams, I mean, it's pretty much Creighton and UConn this season for in my mind, and then it's a bit of a fall off for the Big East.
Marquette's there, but we don't believe in them.
Yes, true, Marquette. And Marquette would actually be one that a lot of people would probably predict to go pretty far. They're going to be they're at 2 right now, and possibly even getting close to 1 line, which is kind of wild. But yeah, I believe more in Creighton than I would Marquette this season. I'm kind of with you there. I
Okay.
would I'd be fine throwing him in the Final Four. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else that you want to put in there?
I think we also have to make clear that it is obviously a lot of the teams are a little bit like historic pasts, but I
Yeah.
think part of it is genuinely you have to do a little bit of the eye test to say,
Yeah.
I mean, is Bama going to the Final Four? And that's our thing. And I don't
Yeah.
really think they will. I will not pick them to,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to place them there. It's kind of that. If I'm playing that game, I think Duke could go to the Final Four. And again, that's another one that's it's all the blue bloods we're putting at the top, but I mean it's true for me. I think they could. They have Filipowski and they have great metrics too. I don't know what your thoughts are there.
No, I actually agree, and part of that is as well is going to be uh is going to be Jared McCain. Him just figuring stuff out, dropping big points. They also have Jeremy Roach, who I just like believe in a lot as a point guard. Like I'd be scared to play against him, even if he's kind of a little bit of a quieter presence. I think they have five guys that like are so dynamic that they would scare me a bit. And actually, like, man, like they're right there with UNC for me, actually. So I'm really interested to see how
I
they.
agree. Yeah, I would agree with you there. Yeah,
So you take
that's probably gonna be the end of the road for the Final Four for me.
that'll be it for me.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let's do Elite Eight and let's get. We want to try for like maybe three teams apiece here.
let's do that. Sure. Elite Eight, I think I'm gonna throw Arizona in there for sure. I think they're very solid. All the metrics specifically love them. I'm not as big of a fan of them this season. I think the Pac-12 and
Hmm.
I just don't know. I haven't seen it yet, in my opinion. I'm just not a huge believer. And yeah, the data loves them. So we'll
Yeah,
throw them there. And I think they definitely can hit that. That's a big ceiling. So they can hit that. I think Iowa State falls here more than the Final Four, probably for me. And then
totally.
if I'm thinking Elite Eight, I think Auburn probably for me. I mean, they're right up there in metrics too. They've been a killer SEC team, and I think they'll be a really hard out whoever beats them, or if they were to make the miracle run. But that
Yeah.
would they're going to be a tough challenge, and I think Bruce Pearl is just an amazing coach, and they've had decent tournament success.
Yeah, by the way, any of those teams I can see making the Final Four just don't quite see it. Specifically, I don't really think Caleb Love is going to allow his team to play to its ceiling. I'm not trying to just make this a rag on Caleb Love thing, but I just think he kind of kills momentum a lot of the times. And if he would just play his role, I think they would even be better. But I totally agree with the Iowa State and Auburn. I think they're really solid teams. If I had to go with three, my first team that jumps off the page. I know they had a tough loss last night. They also didn't have Kevin McCullough. Is going to be Kansas. They're always great. You also have Bill Self, who's just going to be a dog, and he's going to be a tough coach to go against. So that would be it for me, or that would be one for me. I don't want to cast too much disrespect on this team, so I don't want to just not let them make it far at all. I do want to go ahead and say I think Marquette could make an Elite Eight. I don't think they could make it much farther than that. I think when the lights get bright, there's another level from going from Elite Eight to Final Four. And I think Shock could get him to the Elite Eight. I know he's gotten to a Final Four technically with the VCU and whatever. And I think this team is so, so, so talented, but I think they get matched up with somebody tough in an Elite Eight matchup, and the lights get a little too bright for them. And
I would
you're
agree.
you're playing through a really short. He's a great player, but you're playing through Tyler Kolek, and I just don't know how that type of player can how far he can get you. So
Yeah,
those would be two. As far as other than that, as far as that goes, I don't know. I think the one team that jumps off the page at me is probably Baylor. I think they have offense like crazy. They have a crazy offense that
mm,
is amazing. They've got some really unbelievable players. Um, what is it? Ray J. Dennis is just a minute. Ray J. Dennis is a menace. Uh,
no,
I think they could do an Elite Eight. I do. I think they also could suck it up, but I wouldn't be surprised with their offensive firepower.
yeah, no, I think that's a good call. And again, it's Big 12, and the Big 12 is just a gauntlet, and it's never a bad thought in my eyes to have a Big 12 team up at the top.
All
Uh,
right.
I think that's great, for
Yeah,
sure.
I don't see any others that I'm like, man, this team's gonna make the Elite Eight. I don't know about you.
I would agree. I think very close to that line for me. And when I look at metrics, look at the teams available here, it's going to be Illinois. I think
You
they're very
want Sweet
solid.
16 for them though?
16, yeah, I would throw them in the Sweet 16. I think they're on that line. Again, I'm not sure they can get there. I think Purdue has dominated the Big Ten. Illinois has been very good there as well. I do think though the Big Ten is not as good this season. And with that, it makes you doubt a little bit, especially if you're not absolutely elite, as Purdue is. So they jump off the page.
First thing I want to throw in, and I almost wanted to maybe pose that they could do Elite Eight. I just don't know quite enough. Is going to be St. Mary's. I feel like, and you may pull up some metrics, but like the fact that they might go undefeated in the West Coast Conference. I know Gonzaga is arguably having a down year and whatnot, but St. Mary's has been really impressive, and they've still got Mahaney and they've got these dogs on their team that makes me kind of think I wouldn't want to play them in March.
I don't. They're 15 in the net. Solid team. I think that'll be a tough game. Whoever gets to match up with them. I mean, especially the first, but more the second round if they are to get there. That's a more competitive game usually. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be a great game. I think so. So I would agree with you.
What else? What else do you think in Sweet 16 feels like a decent chance for them?
I think looking at these teams a little bit, it becomes a little challenging, right? Because then you're kind of picking amongst we're
Similar.
getting a little bit of toss up in terms of metrics. San Diego State definitely
I was gonna
stands out.
tell them. I think they can do it for sure.
They're really solid.
They could go.
Use one that stands out for metrics. I'm not personally a huge believer in them for some reason. I think we've kind of talked about this, but
I know. I wish that McCullough would have played last night to truly know if they could have, because regardless, winning at Fog Allen is crazy, but I just without McCullough, it's not really the same team. So it's just I don't know.
stuff. Uh,
I mean, you think Sweet 16 in the cards for them, BYU? I, man, I kind
I
of
don't think
don't.
so.
I
I
kind of
don't
don't.
think. Yeah, it is. I mean, if we had to pick some more teams here, I mean, if you're talking Big 12, you go to conference wise. I mean, Texas. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Uh, Looking at this handful of teams, and I don't know if we got one more minute, and then I mean, if you're down, I'm down to just talk and do a really quick one after this. Um, the one that jumps out of the page for me, just they're such a weird team, but actually a team that I feel like you wouldn't want to face just because they're weirdly good is South Carolina. I don't know what you think about that, but like there's
They're
just
good.
something about them.
I think they definitely. I think they should probably be thrown in here. I saw them there, and they should. They're solid. I'm not sure what the tournament holds for them. They are good. There's no doubt about it. I think they can make it there. I mean, that's absolutely a ceiling. There's no doubt. I mean, their ceiling possibly could be higher. I think from a realistic standpoint, probably Sweet 16, and that's gonna be the end of the line for me if they were to make it there.
Totally. Yeah, I'll say we can get three or four more into this tier. But let me get us right back on
All right.
in a second. Um, and